you responded to an ad in the paper for Roger Steele.
Yes, insurance. He was an agent for Century National.
And where was that office? Your initial office?
In National City.
Is that on, I think, 8th Avenue? I think.
I don't remember the address of it, but it was...
Was it the same street as Bank of America?
Yes.
So 8th Avenue.
Yeah.
So not too far from where your last duty station, just down the road.
Right.
And so how long did you work for Roger Steele? And then you said it was a division of Century National?
They were an agent for Century National.
Ah, okay. So you worked for him for a while.
Yeah, I don't know where I have that information written down. It was a year and a half maybe.
And then you became an employee of Century National?
Century National, yeah.
So did he...
They were going to close... Roger Steele and Century National were a parting company.
Ah, okay.
And so I elected to stay with...
Stay on board
with Century National.
Ah, okay. Now, is that when you became in charge of the office?
Yes.
At that point?
Yeah.
And I assume based on your experience in the Navy, was one of the reasons they had you be in charge. Makes sense.
Probably, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So then, when you split company and you continue with Century National, when did you actually move to the office down by the stadium? Was that the next move?
Yes.
I believe.
That was the next move.
And you were there for a long time. Do you remember the 1978 All-Star game?
No.
You had sent in, I think, 4 envelopes to the Padres, and then they drew envelopes, and 2 of your envelopes got drawn. And so I got to go, and you made a deal with Paul Zaharzik. I think I was 12 and he was 13. You made a deal with him that if he could get me to the game and home, then he could go.
Hmm.
And so I got to go to the All-Star game when I was almost 13, not quite, almost 13.
Wow.
And your office was just right across the stadium, across the way on the freeway.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the World Series from 1984?
No.
Ah, this is the one where the Padres were in the playoffs against the Cubs. The whole country was rooting for the Cubs. And they lost the first 2 games in Chicago, and you walked over after they lost the second game and were able to get 2 seats really close to home plate. And so you bought them. And then they won, and you stayed in line, stood in line towards the end of the game. And when the game finished, I replaced you, and you went home to sleep.
Hmm.
So then I stayed up all night in the line to buy the tickets for the next day.
Oh.
And so we did that for the next 2 games, and then for the World Series as well.
Wow.
But I remember vividly you would go down there and replace me during the games. And then when the game was over, I would replace you in line.
Hmm.
Then you go home and sleep, and then we do the same thing until, the whole thing.
Hmm.
So these are just things that I remembered as a teenager. By then I was 18, but still. But I do remember going to your office, and we'd park there for the games, and the teachers union and the firefighters had a union in the other building. They always gave a hard time about parking there because they wanted to charge people to park in the lot, even though technically it wasn't their lot. But I remember you telling me that depending on the game and how crowded it was, you could, if the doors were open, you could hear the crowd from the stadium.
Hmm.
So, let's see what else. I'm trying to think what else. Let's if you don't mind, if you're not tired or whatever, let's go back. Let's go back to your childhood, because I've skipped that whole chunk of your life. And basically, just tell, from when you were a kid until you joined the Navy, sort of your progression, like with your family, your brothers, growing up in Oregon, school, those kinds of things. Especially anything you want people to 100 years from now, 200 years from now, they're going to, hey, yeah, great grandpa West, he almost shot his brother's eye out, or whatever,
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
I can't think of anything that just jumps out at me.
Well, the eye shooting thing.
Oh.
What happened there? What was the
Right about 2 blocks from our house, there was a sawmill. And they eventually built it was like a mountain of dirt and stuff. And Gerald was up on top of the ridge.
And he's your
younger brother.
Younger brother, okay.
And he was quite a ways away from me, but I just raised my BB gun and shot, and it hit him right below that eye.
Now, did your mom find out?
Probably so. I don't know what the outcome was there, but
well, you survived it.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. And you probably never did that again.
Right.
Well, no, because I'd always wondered as a kid, you were very adamant about guns and no BB guns and none of that kind of thing. And then I think you finally broke down and told that story. Why you just didn't care for the things.
Yeah.
So what was going to school, like your elementary school? How far away was that?
It was about 8/10 of a mile, and the buses only picked up students that were a mile away. So for the 2 blocks,
You walked.
We walked. No, I rode a bike. Rode a bike to and from school.
What about during the rain? Still rode a bike?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it didn't snow a lot.
No.
I imagine, but then you couldn't ride bikes, I assume. I don't know. Was your mom very protective of you and your brothers?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes, she was. Health-wise in particular.
Were you guys, were you as boys, were you guys allowed to roam the neighborhood, or you had to be within a certain area?
We didn't have any restrictions, but we stayed close to home. There was we lived right next to Kelly Butte. It's a butte, and at the base of it, on our side of it, there was a pond. It was a pond, and we used to play there in the summertime and in the wintertime. It'd freeze over in the wintertime, and so we could go ice skating on it, except we didn't have ice skates.
So what'd you do?
Just use regular shoes.
Shoes? How do you ice skate with shoes?
You can't. You can't. I think eventually I did get a pair of ice skates, but I don't know. I wasn't too good at it, I guess.
Well, what was as a boy? What was your favorite thing to do? Always happens when I'm recording. Anyway, what was your favorite thing to do as a kid? And I'm talking, before the age of 10 or so.
Oh, roller skating.
Just outdoor stuff.
Yeah, roller skating, and there was no sidewalks or pavement in our neighborhood, but the neighbors, the Goodats down the street, were into construction, and they had
a driveway.
And yeah, and it was cement. They cemented their driveway, so we always went down there to go roller skating.
I find